Good evening, and thank you all for joining us today. My name is Rashmita, and I'm the event planner for Microsoft Reactor Bengaluru, India. This session will run over the next 60 minutes, including Q&A. The session is being recorded and will be uploaded to our Reactor YouTube channel. I will share the link to our YouTube channel in the chat section soon. Before we begin, please take a moment to read our code of conduct. We are all here to learn together, so please be respectful of other people's view, understanding of differences, being kind and considerate in the way you engage. The chat will be open throughout, and we do encourage you all to participate. Also, please keep your mics muted during the session. I would now like to welcome Jigar, our speaker for today's session. Jigar is a partner and senior solution architect with TechScalable and has 16 years of experience. He has trained more than 25,000 plus IT professionals across the globe. He is also a Microsoft certified trainer. But for now, I will hand over to Jigar to begin the session. Over to you.
Hey, thanks, Rashmita. Thanks for the wonderful introduction. I hope you guys can hear me loud and clear. If you can, just give me a quick confirmation on the chat. Okay. So I hope everybody's doing good during this pandemic situation and keeping yourself safe and secure. So today, let's get started with the session. Let me share my screen. We will talk about what is the objective we are planning to cover up today and how we are planning to go through with this today's agenda 1 hour session, what we have. So just a second, give me a second, I'll share my screen. Okay, so let me go in a full screen mode. And let me do one thing. Let me turn off the video so that we can have focus on our today's presentation, and then we can go forward in that case. Yeah. Okay, so what we are planning to cover up in today's agenda is that so we have discussed the topic that it's more about design the modern data warehouse with Azure ASA, I call it out, that is Azure Synapse Analytics. And we're gonna understand variety of concepts of it. We will take a look at it, a particular demo as well, and I will share some particular learning modules as well, which you guys can it's a kind of takeaway and which you guys can use it later for your further learning and going through with that particular learning on the analytics side as well. So the agenda is that we will be going through with understanding what is the high level data platform architecture offered with the help of Azure Synapse Analytics. We will be discussing about SQL pools, which is something you can say core architecture component of Azure Synapse Analytics and how it works, what kind of pricing model available, how effectively it will be available in terms of querying your data and what kind of like features available. And to follow that, we will be also talking about SQL. If you don't mind, guys, can you please keep yourself on mute so that will be good for everybody? Yeah. Okay. I understand. I mean, during this work time frame, you have to balance office and as well as you're learning as well. So I really understand that. But yeah, I mean, meanwhile, if you can just keep yourself on mute. Yeah. So we will be taking care of querying Azure. I mean, we will be querying some data with Azure Synapse Studio. We will get familiar with components offered in that studio. So people who might have worked or seen a little bit on Azure Data Factory ADF side. So something similar to that, you will get it kind of Azure Synapse Studio as well. That is something helpful in terms of creating your interactive workflow, your pipelines, having your notebooks, writing codes, and many other particular stuff. You can do it with the help of that Azure Synapse Studio. So we will take a look at it and we'll understand what are the different options available in terms of working with that, with the modern data platform, right? So in this overall 1 hour sessions, we will be going through with those particular concepts, and we will talk about like what kind of business use case you can take care of with it. Because end of the day, definitely learning services or getting familiar with particular tool chain is something definitely required. But at the same time, you need to know that what kind of business use case you can take care of it, how you can plan your particular technology side of it in your particular solving your business problems and all, right? So here, uh, the first thing in place, we will be understanding about data platform with overall Synapse Analytics architecture, like how it works, what kind of features available, and how we can utilize that particular overall Azure, or I'll call it out ASA. So it will be a acronym kind of thing. You can say Azure Synapse Analytics. So that ASA will give you a kind of full grown a centralized a data warehouse platform, which gives you end to end integration or end to end planning with your variety of activities to be followed, right? So it's a kind of like enterprise grade analytics service, which basically allows you or accelerate your data warehouse capability within the organizations or within the big data ecosystems what you are looking at it. There are many technology stacks, definitely. I mean, you can consider, I mean, you can say that ADF is there, Databricks is there. There are so many particular different components are part of it. So here I can say the role of Azure Synapse is to give you a kind of it brings together like overall SQL technologies, which is something used to manage enterprise grade data warehousing. It will also brings Spark technologies to work for the big data solutions, and also you get some sort of like data explorers for managing your logs and time series analytics over the time, right? It also has the capability of providing you a kind of a pipeline and data workflows and other stuff. So that will help you in terms of planning your ETL or ELT processes, and you can have some deep integration with some visualization toolchain and other particular Azure services as well. So the way over here you see is more about like I mean, if I break this entire diagram in a different component, then we will talk about how it looks and what kind of option is there. So here, if you see this left hand side of component, these are my particular data point where I can say variety of content, variety of data is ingested into the system. So probably it will be my line of business applications from where my data is getting ingested, probably on premise to cloud. I may have some log streams, or I have some particular files collected from the systems. They are majorly like unstructured kind of data and all. You have some media, you have some video and all. So depend what kind of data you are planning to bring it into the system. And at the end of the day, you just wanted to like visualize, you wanted integration, you wanted analysis, and have some you can say performance driven solutions up and running, right? So here, if you see, wherever you see this Synapse logo, by the way, I mean, here you must be observing that it is just the logo, the service logo. So you might be a little bit blank that, okay, oh yeah, I mean, why there is nothing written in front of that, right? So let me just share your screen. So here these are built-in capability, built-in features of ASA Synaptic. So that will help you in terms of integrating all these particular features as a part of it. So I can say data lake will be a kind of default storage available as a part of my SQL data. This Azure Synapse Analytics. I have Power BI as in visualization. I do have writing my pipelines and creating my pipelines and writing my notebooks and all that particular stuff. So in general, I can say the left component talks about the ingesting data into the system.
The middle component, this particular whatever I have highlighted, these are some my particular core features or core offerings from the ASA, where I can plan my data management. So in general, I can consider that this is something made available to you with ASA Studio. So that's basically your Azure Synapse Analytics Studio, and as a part of that particular studio, I can perform variety of activity behind the scene, right? So here, if I brief one by one component, that what is the specialization of each and every single feature of it, and then we will take a look at it, like couple of them as an demo, that how that's something we can leverage and what kind of like options we can play around with it, right? So here I can say pipeline and data flow. So this is basically uh, uh, you can create a kind of uh, something similar to ADF. You must have seen, or if you're new to this, then there is no issue as such. But pipelines are like allowing you to create your transformation of your particular data, right? You can create your particular data flow and you can define that what will be the ETL or ELT processes you wanted, that how you want to transform your particular data. So here I can consider that each and every single layer, because usually what happens that when you think about any business use case, right? Say for example, I was like engaged, or I have like one of the enterprise customer where they were into this energy sector, right? So they were dealing with energy sector and they were providing electricity to the end customers and all. So their problem statement was to they wanted to plan and manage the consumption of the electricity, the usage, improvising the overall experience of end customer, and giving them a best service, and probably like try to solve whatever the faulty lines and like help customers in terms of whatever way possible. So they were generating lots of data because of their particular entire electricity plant and many things was there, right? So they just wanted to plan that how the data is getting ingested, because data was coming in terabytes and terabytes. So they just wanted to ingest that data, structured, unstructured, whatever they have, and they just wanted like proper workflow to be created. Now in this, definitely, I mean, in big data solution we do have variety of role play, right? I mean, as an enterprise, like you may have, okay, I have analyst, I have data engineer, I have like data scientist and all, and I wanted all of them to work together in terms of giving me right set of data as an enterprise, so that I can take some measurements and I can improvise my overall service offerings, right? So here the advantage is that at each different layer, you have a particular role, or maybe each and every role can accommodate. So for example, in pipeline and data flows, your analyst and data engineer works together and they can plan how the data workflow looks like, what will be the transformation they are looking at it. Probably a data scientist and all, they wanted some sort of algorithms, they wanted some particular standards to be implemented, so that their data will be analyzed based on the standards what they are expecting, and then they get some particular fine tune output in that particular case, right? So here, uh, in such scenario, definitely you have a role play, you have a particular integration, or probably you can plan your workflow out of the box, right? So pipeline and data flows, basically this will allow you a UI based activity. So for example, if I go to my portal and let's say, I'm not sure why this, okay. So here, if I go to my portal, so I have created one Synapse instance before this our particular session, so that we can save time and we can at least spend some good time on this particular UI as well. So here, definitely you get some interactive UI where you have particular components. They call it out, I mean, Microsoft call it out as an hub. So you can say home, data hub, develop hub, integrate, monitor, and manage hub. So each section has some particular configurations. You have some particular components to be made available. You can plan or ingest your particular data. You can plan your workflow. You can create your pipelines and variety of activities you can do it, right? So in general, uh, creating kind of activity. So if I'm looking for some particular pipeline to be created, you just need to drag and drop, and you can have standard workflow to be created, and you can automate your particular processes the way it is expected. So in general, when it comes to data flow and pipeline creation, you have some nice visualization. You have UI based interactive UI where you can simply go and create your particular activity the way you are looking at it, right? You also have a particular notebooks. So I must say that notebook helps in a variety of the way. So for example, let's say it's not just only writing a code kind of thing and having your particular streamlined data processes out of the box, but it also gives a lot of great control in terms of a lot of people are using it. I have seen like data engineers, they go ahead and write their particular documentation kind of stuff as well, so that if anybody wanted to reuse that code or reuse that notebook within the organization, then it will be like very handy, right? So definitely you have particular options available. You can simply go ahead and plan the activity, and you can create similar kind of notebooks, and those things can be sorry, those things can be automated, and you can trigger the flow the way it is expected. So in general, basically what you get is that here, apart from this, I mean the UI part, you have this a notebook activity which you can simplify, and you can have your script or your structure to be written, and it will be integrated within the overall activity. So many enterprises, many like developers who like regularly write their particular scripts and queries and all that, they prefer to go ahead with notebooks and all. So that's basically make more sense, and it will help us in terms of customizing your workflow and a lot of great controls over on overall your particular workflows and all. Yeah. So that way, basically, the notebook works effectively. You have the storage part of it. So here I can consider that in general, the storage point of view. So as soon as when you are planning to create your particular Synapse instance in Azure portal, so by default, definitely you need to assign some sort of storage. One of the great capability of Azure Synapse is that it divides your compute and storage, what do you say, separately. Usually, if you can take a look at it on premise, usually we keep it like our clusters and storage and everything, compute, network, storage, all that thing will be placed accordingly. Your cluster gets created accordingly, and everything get managed. And that is one of the I can say the biggest investment in terms of like you just wanted to see the POC and then you wanted to go ahead with actual warehouse, then it will be quite a heavy investment. But when it comes to cloud, the advantage what you get is that it's a fully managed platform. It divides your processes. You have separate compute instance, you have separate fully managed storage, and then you can just dump your data and have your parallel it's called like MPP, right? So your massively parallel process what you can execute, and you can perform variety of queries on top of it. So here definitely you will get default data lake store. So for example, if I wanted to show you, I have created already one instance, but just for your reference, I can create, I mean, I will not create, but at least we'll see how it looks like and all. So here you can say Synapse Analytics, and so there are a couple of configurations available which you can follow when you're creating that particular Synapse instance. So first thing in place, definitely you will be selecting your subscriptions and all that. You will be creating your resource group which you want to go ahead. So for example, I'll just say Synapse workspace. Okay, and here you have some managed resource group. This is something I always recommend that people, I mean, just for better management, because usually what happens that when you are planning to create Synapse workspace, by default, Azure, uh, by default, what you say that Azure will give you. Oh, there was a question. Just a second. Can you maximize the screen? Okay. Are you guys not able to see my full screen? Because on my laptop I am able to see my full screen, so not sure about as an end user. Krishna, I mean, just let me know what is the area you are looking at it, because this is full screen. Or if you want, I can zoom this a little bit. Name ribbon. Okay, just a second. Is it gone now? Not sure. Name ribbon might be at your end, probably, because my end it's like disable kind of thing. It's a full screen. It will be on your machine probably if you can take a look at it, because on my machine there is no top ribbon. Yeah. Okay. So here I can say that when we go ahead with our portal, so here you see, I'll zoom it a little bit screen so that will be helpful. Yeah. So here, if you see in this particular configuration point of view, the managed resource group is something what I can consider is that this is something what my default storage, or probably you can say the management group of my storage will get assigned to this. Okay, so whatever the configurations we wanted to give some proper resource group name, managed resource group name. I always prefer to give it on your own, so that usually I give name what I have given to my resource group. I'll keep it same. So that way Microsoft will not give any other name, and I mean that's system name. It will be not assigned to you, and you can select it something on your own, right? So I'll just give, like, let's say 01, some unique name. Workspace name, this could be anything, and it should be unique. Of course, region you can select. I'm just giving some unique name. Let's see it works. Yeah, region of your choice, what you can go for. So probably you can pick and choose that specific location. And here we're gonna create our particular data lake store and all. Now in my use case, I have already created, so probably I can select that. Okay, oh yeah, this is something what I wanted to go ahead, and the additional file system which I wanted to associate with it, that is something I can select it. So in general, you have high level configurations with your particular Azure Synapse, and there are a couple of additional tabs which you can take a look at it, like security, networking, and all. So security point of view, definitely, I mean, if you're planning to go ahead and integrate with your workspace with your SQL pool, you need some administration on top of it. So probably you can connect with that particular instance, and you can like query, and you can do some lot more further activities on top of it. So in general, if you're looking at some additional access on top of it, you can assign those credentials at any point of given time, right? Now, one thing I just forgot to mention, that at the bottom, if you see this guy, we will automatically grant workspace access and all that. So for example, if you are working with ASA, then RBAC is something assigned accordingly, right? If you're using, let's say for example, you're working in a team and you wanted that the team member should get effective access and they can run queries and do some particular hands-on activity on top of it, so you need to give them some RBAC access, right? So from Active Directory point of view, owner, reader, contributor kind of and all. So in that case, probably as in the person who creates that definitely will get administrative access, but when you add users and you just wanted to give them access, that will be default, will be the contributor one. So if you are planning to go ahead and change and modify those RBACs, because usually these kind of errors and problem statements you keep getting from your teammates that, hey, I'm trying to query data, but I do not have enough access and all that. So this is something while creating your particular instance itself, you will be able to notice. And that's why it was given with some highlight, because majority of the queries or questions come from your teammate comes from this area that, hey, I am able to do XYZ thing, but not able to do some task or not able to execute, or I do not have authorizations and all that stuff. So you just have to make sure that when you are working on top of it, this is something what you have in control and you can provide effective access to them. uh, so networking perspective, this is specific to enterprise point of view. Let's say for example, the use case which I have mentioned, let's say I just wanted to in that energy sector, right? So let's say for example, I wanted that uh, the warehouse which I'm planning to connect and access within the organization, it will be connected through over the network, right? And that too, like if anybody wanted to connect outside of my network, then I wanted like a proper private link to be established, so that whoever user is going to connect and access my cluster, they have secure connectivity and some dedicated IPs and all that thing I wanted to assign and all. So here definitely you have access to that. Many enterprises like who wanted on-premise data center folks to connect and perform some activities via secure network, they can go ahead and plan such kind of networking activities and all. So right now, I mean, it's disabled, we do not have any access or intention to go ahead with it. But in case if you are looking at it, definitely you can enable and it will give you secure connect and access to the services. So in general, these are the three main tab, especially the basic and security, because networking is something, it depends, like it depends on the enterprise, like what kind of expectations they have with this tool or component, and then they can configure it accordingly. So in general, you can plan or you can go ahead with your configurations, and that will be allowing you to play around with the services, and you can make sure that how the entire environment will get created for you, right? So that is something what we can go ahead and plan our overall Synapse Analytics workspace to be created. So right now I already have it, so I'm not creating another one. I'll just like leave it as is, and we will move forward with further topic, and we will come back again. And yeah, by the way, meanwhile, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to post it. So I'll take it in between, and then we'll go ahead accordingly. So that's more about like data lake store site. So where I can create and assign my storage to it, so that whatever the compute instance, like they perform the queries and all, it will goes to my particular data lake store, and I can access them as a result or fine tune data the way I want it. Uh, the another component is my SQL pool, which is something my core component, core feature of my data warehouse, where we get dedicated instance, or probably we get serverless. Both the kind of options are available. Now it is something, definitely it's a business decision that I wanted to perform some ad hoc queries and I just wanted to get release my cluster, then definitely I'll prefer to go ahead with serverless rather dedicated, because dedicated one runs continuously. And if you're expecting some regular queries and regular data processing on top of it, then definitely you can go ahead with that and you can play around with those particular activity. But here I can say our objective is to play around with what kind of options we are looking for, either serverless or dedicated one. And last but not least, the visualization point of view, you do have Power BI as in visualization, which is something you can have a complete flow, which allows you that whatever the data you have queried and optimized is something you can create your workspace in Power BI, and you can integrate that workspace within Synapse Management Studio. And then the source, whatever you are producing via this particular overall query mechanism, it will be for your particular web Power BI, and the end user can have visualization, the dashboard activities, and then they can play around with those particular data, right? So the overall, I can say, if I want to little bit deep dive into SQL Pool, because SQL Pool is the it's a core of my particular Azure Synapse, which is something I would like to explain a little bit more in detail, and we will talk about what kind of structure comes in, how we can utilize, what is the benefit, and all that thing. We're going to take a look at it. Yeah. So in this particular scenario, when you are going ahead with Azure Synapse, so definitely you will get three elements to it. Okay. So one of the component is that dedicated SQL pool. What is something available towards your Azure ASA? You have serverless SQL pool, and you have like Apache Spark pool. So if I go back to my UI, and in my particular management studio, so you have this particular pools to be created. So here is my visualization, and under that I can simply go ahead and plan my one of the pool that I am planning to go ahead with my dedicated SQL pool if I wanted to create. By default, if you see here, it is mentioned that default one is your built-in serverless. So as soon as you create your ASA instance, the service, as soon as you provision, the default one is your serverless. So it is assumed that you don't want this particular services to be keep up and running for a long time, and it's a cost saving scenario, I can say, because I don't want to like keep running this particular instance, and whenever I want it, I just like wanted to run accordingly, and I can turn off my jobs, or I can get rid of my particular instance whenever I want it. But yeah, if you're looking for dedicated pool and all, so definitely you have a provision to create them and associate with your particular instances. So of course, I mean, that's a SQL pool. You can also go ahead with Apache Spark, and you can simply create a Spark pool, and so on. Maybe if you're planning to go ahead with some preview of your particular data, the data management point of view, like Data Explorer is something available which will help you to play around with your real-time data to be visualized, and which is something coming from IoT based solutions and all that. Probably you can go ahead and plan time series kind of activities on top of it. So analytics point of view, definitely you have variety of options which you can plug and play, and it is like simplified way to go ahead and create your particular structure. Something similar to that, if I wanted to go ahead with link services, and let's say click on new. By the way, by default, if you see over here, when as soon as I create my the Synapse instance, I have my Synapse Analytics along with Data Lake Store. So these are my particular default instance gets linked in my services, and it gets associated within my environment, right? On top of it, if you're planning to go ahead with any other particular services to be integrated, right? So if you see the top bar by default shows that if you're planning that your Power BI workspace to be integrated, because end of the day, whatever the data gets transformed, you wanted those data to be visualized, correct? So in such case, it is like a straightforward integration given to you, and if you have your business accounts and everything like streamline, then you can simply say plug and play, and you can start visualizing your data with provided services. And of course, I mean, there are so many integrations, link services available. So at the end of the day, like which one is your choice, how the data is getting processed, and what was your target endpoint, you can plan and dump your particular output on top of it. So ultimate goal is that The single platform, single studio, as I mentioned earlier, that ASS Studio will give you a kind of centralized way to play around with the informations and work with the variety of data out of the box. So three elements: your SQL pool, which allows you to create your dedicated or by default serverless one that comes by default. So as soon as you create your ASA service, you will get your serverless components or serverless pool available by default behind the scene. And the advantage is that we will take a look at it in one of the upcoming diagram. That is something more about MPP process, that what kind of data it process and how it works, and what kind of like structure available behind the scene, right? So that is something we're gonna take a look at it in a few minutes. So in general, these are some particular core features made available to you in terms of planning your variety of activity. So in a nutshell, your dedicated pools, your serverless pool, your Apache Spark pool, and as well as the data explorer, these are the core component of your analytics. And on top of that, you can create all these particular activity. You can have integration point of view, you can create your pipeline, you can have some connected services, you can process your data, and everything will be like under that workspace available with that Synapse Studio. So it's a great capability. I mean, it will helpful to you in terms of centralize end-to-end data warehousing process and platform available into the system. And behind the scene, it's a kind of standard way in terms of planning your or querying your particular data and other activities out of the box, right? Uh, if I want to consider the overall architecture, right? So there are a couple of layers divided. If I'm going ahead with my dedicated pools and all, so there are a couple of layers divided into this overall configuration, right? So whenever you create your dedicated SQL pool, then it will be using as a node architecture. They call it as a node based architecture. So here if you see that you have your control node, you have your compute node, you have your particular storage allocated, and overall it works with your MPP mechanism. It's a massive parallel processing throughout the life cycle. So here I can say if I wanted to start from the bottom, say for example, right? So here I can consider that you will get first thing in place storage. So you will get a dedicated SQL pool along with storage, and it will keep your data safe behind that particular storage. So since you wanted those particular data to be stored and managed by Azure storage, so you will get separate storage for consumption for that particular data and whatever the structure you have, right? Now when you're going ahead with the data storage and all, definitely I mean, if I'm considering more logical, that whenever we are going ahead with data processing and all, so we prefer some data sharding and all, because if you see here, the data is getting distributed amongst multiple compute node, and behind the scene we wanted those data distribution works with some sort of sharding pattern, because those sharding patterns are going to be associated with your compute nodes, and it will allow you to like store and process your particular data effectively. So if I'm talking about like those my sharding patterns, so here I can say it will be my hash pattern. You have hash, you have round robin, and you have a replicate one. So these are some three particular options available. So I can say round robin one. So that's my specific data processing, and you have a particular replicate one. So you can pick and choose which one is something you are looking for, and you can play around with that specific shardings and all. So here if I wanted to consider how that particular distributions and other particular stuff work. So for example, if it's a hash kind of functions, so behind the scene I can consider that uh, I may have some my compute nodes distributed. So you can consider that this is your particular pool of compute nodes, and behind that compute nodes, you may have your particular nodes to be distributed, right? So you may have like variety of database computes to be divided. So that way we will have multiple components are part of it. I mean, I can just say if I can duplicate, or else let me have some few more. So this will be kind of you can say it's a kind of like a mechanism available, and this is something giving you ability to play around with your particular environment. So I may have my compute nodes in place, and these nodes are made available something like this, where you have a particular nodes are available, and each nodes may come up with a hash mechanism. So hash distributed table can deliver like highest query performance for joins and aggregations on large tables, right? So it will be helpful to you. It's a built-in mechanism again. So you can shard your data. It will helpful to you in terms of distribute your table, and it has a built-in mechanism of hash functions, what you can consider, and it will divide and distribute your data amongst those particular nodes, and it will get processed behind the scene. So that's one mechanism. Second one is probably you can say round robin. So round robin table is like it's one of the simple table which is something get created and delivered to some faster performance to the respective like compute node. So by default it says that round robin basically distribute tables evenly across all your particular nodes what you have without any further optimization. It will distribute them, and then it will get processed. So ultimate goal is that uh, you need to figure it out that which particular mechanism applicable for your business use case, right? I mean, you can plan one of the component and features, and then something you can play around with your particular data to distribute them across the compute nodes, and then it will process or query your particular information the way it is expected. So that's more on the data distribution side, which starts with your particular storage. From the compute node point of view, if I want to consider the compute node or compute layer, uh, these are my particular elements where I can consider that in my compute nodes, these compute nodes provide me a kind of processing power, right? So end of the day, whatever the query or whatever the number of nodes you are expecting, the number of nodes what you get it like in the range of 1 to 60. 60 is the maximum number what you get it, and you can set up some configurations on warehouse unit, like what is the overall dedicated pool number of units you wanted to like execute and query or process your particular data and all that. So ultimately the this particular compute node will give you some unique identity, and behind the scene the MPP will basically distribute your particular workloads across those compute nodes and give you some well defined data processing on top of it. So that's where you can have your compute nodes, and the top one basically your control node, right? So control node, it's your I can say it's a main entry point, or maybe you can say it's a brain of your entire solution or your entire SQL dedicated pool, which is something allowing you to like it interacts with your front end and all your applications connections from where the queries and other things you wanted to manage within your system. So it interacts with those elements. It distributes your query engine, and whatever the control node give the instruction behind the scene, those particular what do you call the compute node process your particular data the way it is expected. So ultimate goal is that you will get the entire workflow in place, and it will definitely distribute the way workload it is expected, right? DMS stands for your data management movement service. So that will help you in terms of moving your particular, uh, you can say specifically the keyword written is DMS. So that's basically your data transport technology, which will coordinates data movement between your compute nodes, right? So maybe some query requires some data movement to make sure that your parallel query returns some exact result or accurate result at the end of the day. So in that case, you may need your DMS to ensure that that activity happens and you get some data to be in that particular right location. So ultimate goal is that from the overall architecture perspective, whenever we go ahead, so for example, if I go ahead in my portal and if I say SQL pool and say new, so here if you see, whenever you are planning to create your dedicated pool, so here is the performance level will be asked, that what will be the data warehouse unit you wanted to be perform, and of course the pricing will be applicable accordingly. So you can identify what is the bare minimum, minimum you get it 100 like data warehouse unit, and maximum depend if you are like enterprise grade and you have really big data query requirement and all, then it will goes up to 30,000 as well. So up to you, like what kind of warehouse unit you require to process your query and give you the best performance behind the scene, and accordingly you will get that dedicated pool along with this kind of configurations across the system. Now, when I say don't get confused between compute node and this data warehouse unit. Compute nodes are number of instance what you get who runs your particular query on top of it, whereas warehouse unit is like the performance tuning, where you can say you are looking for high performance with those compute nodes, then it will be distributed amongst those compute nodes and they will like equally like give you performance to consume your data and process or query them out of the box. So in general, I mean, you can play around with the overall structure. You can plan your consumption part of it, and in general, you have a better visibility throughout this particular entire ASA as in service. Right now, what I have done, I have just simply imported like one query file, and that's something we can just simply run that, and in a fraction of time it will give us some particular result with whatever we wanted. Of course, I mean, we are not going any like advanced queries and all that, because I mean, with the timeline whatever we have, I think we can cover up some standard things. So definitely, I mean, we can have some follow-up sessions or later stage we can talk about more advanced components as well. But here if you can see in my data part of it, so what I have done by default, I have created my ADL, my data lake store, and I have created my file system as an user, and along with that user I have imported one file into the system. uh, you can import or ingest files from wherever you want it, right? So in my case right now I have just imported some sample data, NYC, trip or traffic related informations I have just imported. And on top of that, you can simply run some built-in queries. So here one thing is that when you're planning, one of the good thing in Microsoft Studio or tool chain, like you can consider any, I mean, either Synapse Data Factory or Logic App or any integration tools and all, which you go ahead, you will see some predefined gallery, right? So here, a lot of people, they just think about like, hey, from where can I get the data for practicing or working on something? Then here is the real time, or probably you can say a sample informations given to you, which you can pick and choose. These are some predefined templates, and of course description is also given to you. So you can say data set, if you're looking at it, if you're looking at notebooks which was written prior to any of these activities. So you see like Python, Scala, SQL, and .NET, variety of options available, right? So major difference here, if I want to consider Databricks and this, in Databricks you get that R and all that, where you don't have .NET, sorry, this other stuff and all. So here you don't get that R stuff. So those things will be available with data factory and all. Whereas here you get some built-in components. SQL scripts you also have. So in case if you're planning with any of this particular gallery based activity to be followed and get started with it, you can do so, right? So it's not just only that you always have to write your own custom and then you can kickstart with your querying your data and testing your POCs and other stuff. It definitely, if you have, you are good to go ahead. But if not, then this is something what you can take a look at it. So simple example, if I just wanted to say select top 100 rows, so by default you get some particular queries. So it's a built-in template. So I mean, it is just pretty much straightforward. You can simply go ahead and execute your particular query. If in case if you are familiar with your T-SQLs and other stuff, you can write your own custom queries, and in a fraction of seconds you get your result, and that particular result will be populated within your studio itself, right? And definitely this is something like a kind of standard data processing. The way I have highlighted the integration with services and all, right? So now assume that whatever the data you have it in place, I just wanted to integrate with my Power BI services for visualization, right? So I can simply go ahead with link services. I can add my connectors, and definitely you can add your particular workspace and map with your Power BI activity. You're done with that. So of course it will give you a well defined approach in terms of creating and connecting with your structure how you want it. Probably you can write your own custom queries as well here itself, so that whatever data you got it and you still wanted to fine tune and then push it to your Power BI reports and all, definitely you can do so. So here I can say variety of options available, and behind the scene you have these particular workflow to be like triggered, and you can integrate those particular structures the way it is expected into this entire system. So overall I can say it's a one stop solution where you will get kind of a data warehouse mechanism by default, and this is something like a massive parallel process. You can do it with the help of it, right? So here it's end of the session, I can say. Here is the link which I encourage everybody. You will find that link in your chat window as well. Here I will encourage everybody that please follow and go through with this data warehouse learning management, and this will give you some further insight in terms of exploring the data warehouse related activities on top of it, Azure, along with Azure Synapse Analytics, and you can perform a variety of big data processes on top of it. And just for your information that uh, if you are intent to go ahead with DP203 certification, this is one of the topic which will helpful to you in terms of preparing for that certification as well. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's all from my end. Uh, Over to you, Rashmita, if you wanted to call out anything.
Thank you so much, Jigar. Let me just share my screen one more time.
Sure.
As you can all of you see that I have shared the survey link and the learn module link. Please give us the feedback about today's session, and also please feel free to use the learn module link shared. It will give you access to additional resources to take your learning further. Also, please visit our Microsoft Reactor Bengaluru meetup page for more upcoming session. Thank you all once again and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Rashmita. Thank you, everyone.